In one corner, you have people saying addiction is a disease. In the other, people say that addiction is a choice. Which group is right, and how can we prove it? The simple dictionary definition for a disease is an illness that affects a person, animal, or plant, a condition that prevents the body or mind from working normally. These conditions are not caused by a direct physical injury. So, if you fall and break your leg, you don't have a broken leg disease. Sometimes people are born with diseases as a result of genetics. These are known as hereditary diseases. Examples of these are dwarfism or Down syndrome. Some people develop diseases over time. While genetics can contribute to these diseases, lifestyle choices can also cause them to develop. Lung cancer is a disease commonly caused by smoking. Type 2 diabetes can occur because of poor diet and excess weight. Many do not understand how people get an addiction. Why can't they just stop? Many think that addicts are just weak, that they have no willpower or lack morals. A disease, however, is much more complex than just saying no. When children are young, they say things like, "When I grow up, I want to be a pro athlete, a fireman, a doctor." They don't say, "When I grow up, I want to shoot up heroin," or "When I grow up, I hope that someday I'm living under a bridge, drinking cheap wine out of a paper bag." Addiction is not something anyone wants. For an addict, the choice is gone. Substance abuse has completely taken over any rational thinking. Addiction becomes a physical dependency and a mental obsession. There is a lot we still don't know about who becomes addicted and why, or after how much drug exposure. We do know that each person is different. Some people seem to be able to dabble in drug use with little consequence, while others can get hooked early on. We can't determine exactly when someone gets an addiction. Some people get addicted quickly. Their habits spiral out of control much faster than others. Genetics have been found to play a role in addiction. They are not, however, solely responsible for who gets hooked on drugs. There is no gene that says this person can get addicted or this person cannot. No matter how in control someone may seem, with enough substance abuse, chemical changes occur in a person's brain. Now that the definition of a disease is established, does an addiction fall into its category? Addiction is primarily thought of as a brain disease. So to understand addiction as a disease, it's important to know how the brain works. Inside the brain are 86 million neurons, which send information through electrical and chemical signals. Neurotransmitters relay signals between neurons, which tell your heart to beat and your lungs to breathe. Different drugs affect neurons in different ways. Some, like marijuana and heroin, mimic natural neurotransmitters and are able to activate neurons. Other drugs, like cocaine and amphetamines, cause the brain to produce large amounts of neurotransmitters. Both methods create abnormal communication in the brain, which ultimately affects the brain's reward pathway. The reward pathway lives inside the nucleus accumbens. This pathway is responsible for pleasure, motivation, and reinforcement. The reward pathway connects a person's actions with pleasure. This connection is solidified with a burst of dopamine. The purpose of the pathway is to reinforce important human functions like hunger, thirst, and reproduction. When we eat, the brain floods with dopamine, which feels good. The hippocampus, which is a structure in the brain responsible for memory, remembers that this action led to a happy feeling, and that it should be repeated. Under the influence of drugs, dopamine function in the brain becomes abnormal. Dopamine is involved in feelings of pleasure and motivation. Addicts often feel flat, lifeless, and depressed when they are not using. Drug use causes huge amounts of dopamine to be emitted rapidly in the reward pathway. The hippocampus remembers how good the action felt and decides that it should be done more often. Drugs are addictive because of the speed, reliability, and power of the dopamine they produce. Over time, however, higher doses are needed to emit larger amounts of dopamine. This is because the brain adapts to the huge surges in dopamine. It cuts down on the amount of dopamine emitted, or reduces the amount of dopamine receptors in the reward circuit. This leads to not only drugs having a lower pleasurable effect, but everything else that goes through the reward pathway. Natural sources of pleasure become less pleasurable, leaving the drug user feeling flat and lifeless in daily life. This is the source of an addiction. To combat those feelings of lifelessness, the addict continues to stimulate the reward pathway over and over again with drug use.